Each day a struggle for Papua New Guineans. Promoting financial access to farmers. And need for defining separation of powers.
This is National EMTV News with Meriba Tulo.
A very good evening. Thank you for joining us. This is Sunday's news. The rise in the prices of goods and services in the country is affecting many average Papua New Guineans. The EMTV lay team spoke to a group of women who rely on table markets for an income, and they said it gets harder each day. Wilma Koe, a mother, says she hopes to see a change in government because of the country's current state.
This is an average afternoon at this market in Lay's Papuan compound area. For women and men who rely on making an income in the informal sector, this is the daily routine. The rise in the costs of goods and services has made it difficult for them to make ends meet with the little they earn.
Islam affect the family blooming kind of some sometimes I get number to leftover market something blum plan go sleep no good luck cook lao so this like school fee blow beginning to.
Unemployment is an issue residents here have stated. With limited job opportunities, they're not able to find jobs to support their families. Adding on to the list of concerns raised, Deputy Ward Chairman David Ambe, who is also a teacher by profession, said the amount of taxes is too much.
Plenty old mama, all salim something only no making money on top of this la. Now all plenty old papa, mipla walk to, plenty old big pla text, mipla too, only cut him.
They all want to see a change in government.
So now like us, Peter only must step down and Larry Narab government masana.
Me plus him you leader to stop government must go join him all opposition. Now for him government nubla government must come up.
Lucy Kopana, National EMTV News, Lay.
For many farmers across the country, access to funding remains a critical need. For those in the cocoa industry, moves by the Cocoa Board to facilitate funding for farmers took a positive step this week with the launch of a financing facility for farmer groups. This now allows registered farmers through PNG-AC to access loans of up to 10,000 kina. 5 cocoa farmer groups in the Kokopo district of East New Britain province this week marked a milestone with the Cocoa Board of Papua New Guinea, in partnership with MyBank, launching a financing facility specifically for cocoa farmers. The agriculture value chain product is a loan product available to cocoa farmers who are registered through the PNG Agriculture Company, a registered business entity of the Cocoa Board. According to PNG-AC CEO Brad Jackson, this product is aimed at helping farmers to fund improvement to cocoa production, with loans of between 1,000 and 10,000 kina available for farmers.
It puts you farmers on a better pathway for financial inclusion and much better lives. So I encourage you to take advantage of the opportunity the PNG Agriculture Company and the Cocoa Board and MyBank have created here. Take control of your finances, build a strong farming business and create the future that you want.
Asian Development Bank Country Director David Hill was present for the launch and commended the partnership, saying the agriculture value chain product was one way of promoting financial inclusion for people in rural areas of the country.
This combination of using local, innovative and willing to assess risk in relation to how the market actually works is exactly what agriculture in PNG needs. ADB sees financial institutions like MyBank as part of the solution for rural development in the Pacific.
Yes, it is indeed a big breakthrough for ordinary farmers. It is indeed a big breakthrough for our ordinary farmers. And many thanks to the support and assistance we are getting from MyBank.
DAL Acting Secretary Daniel Kombuk also spoke at the occasion and called for similar products to be made available for farmers across other commodities in other parts of the country.
This program is going to be rolled out to other commodities throughout Papua New Guinea. This is a breakable kind of initiative that we are taking on, and I think it's very, very important that other people will take on board.
The launch of the agriculture value chain product also saw the first farmer received the first loan. Blasius Vovore, a member of the Nganalaka Farmer Group, the first to be loaned 1,000 kina under this program.
Standard of living na rosin poverty of place. In the world plakain, Yaman tok na disla about. And true tok. Now already we can look in picture. Now you can look in picture. You looking all big lo anta polikam down no level playing katam. Now give this kind service no me, and we can say ourselves. You looking finishing line please.
It's been 6 years since the Bukblong Pickaninni's Library Learning Center at Tatana had been built, but it has had a great impact in the community. The children are achieving much better academic results, and Tatana has seen a 30% increase in children progressing onto high school. One parent said it's like the whole community has become focused on education, and they now have children reading at school and coming home with books to read and study. The organization's founder, Sophie Herman, said bridging Tokples and Tokpisin speakers into English at age 5 provides the children with a strong advantage. The project is a collaborative effort by the Tatana community, the Swiss Embassy and CPL. CPL has just signed on to an additional 5-year sponsorship from 2018 to 2023. New Civil Aviation Minister Lekwa Gure has reiterated the focus of his ministry in ensuring that air transport safety in the country is strengthened. Speaking to MTV News, Minister Gure said this has already begun, with discussions commencing with the Minister for State Enterprise regarding Air Niugini's recent order of the Boeing 787 MAX aircraft. This decision follows concern within the global airline industry following 2 fatal crashes involving Boeing 787 MAX 8 aircraft in Indonesia and Ethiopia, respectively.
In order to actively manage the acquisition process, or maybe the timing of when they're going to take delivery, just to make sure that the fixes that the manufacturer are talking about to these computers called the anti-stall computers are fixed before anyone takes acquisition, so takes delivery of the aircraft. Because I fear that if we take delivery too quickly and these fixes are not in place, then I really hate to think that we're gonna have a serious incident or maybe an accident.
National MTV News continues with more after these messages. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. For most, Sundays usually start off on a high note, but for some residents residing at Kanage Street, 6 Mile, the day started off in a brawl between residents and workers of a security company, Black Swan.
According to eyewitnesses, the fight started at around 4 a.m. this morning. Some kids on their way for the NCD Governor's Walk for Life event were seen spray painting on the security company fence and were caught by security workmen. They were said to have belted a kid up, and when some residents tried to step in and stop the action taken by the guards, more security guards became involved, causing the fighting groups to increase rapidly as the noise grew louder in the area.
They were up at 5 Mile Junction when the Black Swan truck drove down and identified them as children who were graffitiing on the wall. So the vehicle stopped there and asked them why they were doing that, and without further notice, further questioning, they assaulted the boys and brought them down to the camp with the bumper bus knocked behind them. The parents of the children went up to question why that happened, and when they went up to question, the Black Swan who were on the duty drop-off and ready to take off on another day's activity, they all mobilized at that location, so they started attacking the parents and the children. Because it was around 4 o'clock in the morning, it was still dark. They couldn't do much because we had to stop them. But about 5:30, they mobilized, they came down.
Properties belonging to some public servants living in the area were also destroyed, allegedly by Black Swan guards in the midst of the fighting.
Till 6:30, all community being come in a time, all I defend him, property blow. All come beyond this land, only some gun blow, using name blow, Prime Minister blow me plan, na only shoot out straight long all community blow plan, plant you all blow all community blow imply became injury.
This incident happened, they were mobilized, they went into the private premises, and then one of them is, you see the vehicle at a private residence. Most of them, my vehicle was very badly damaged, both doors, the windscreen, the rear glass, and the PNG power vehicle for my brother, and then also my sister's vehicle, and then the other one also badly damaged because we're not a part and parcel of this incident. And then we're innocent. And then a lot of our young people have received the injuries, and also the properties were damaged.
The residents alleged that gunshots were fired by some Black Swan guards with bullet pellets hitting some residents, causing injuries. By the time the police were alerted and arrived on scene, some residents had already been badly hurt and needed medical attention. Some casualties were said to have been rushed to the hospital. Attempts to get comments from Black Swan management today about the brawl were unsuccessful. Police say they will have to carry out a full assessment of the situation before they can make conclusions of who was initially at fault. A full report should be ready by tomorrow. Anet Kora, National EMTV News.
A family nearly lost their lives at Morata Saturday afternoon when another vehicle crashed into them. As they were turning onto the main freeway, a maroon 5-door vehicle drove straight into their vehicle at full speed. The offenders, 2 men, were under the influence of alcohol. Both are now in police custody. The family experienced no fatal injuries, however, they were quite traumatized by what happened.
Drive out lo freeway na disla runabout ya. Mipla looking disla 10 sita kam olsem na 5 doya. Mipla kam sindan taso na mipla giveaway stop. Giveaway le disla car stop no gat disla cruiser kam taso le. Kam straight taso le mas drink na tubla man upside dem rosim shet na sindana driver wanta tubla kame ol kam taso na kam iti mipla ya. Bam tubla bambi mipla finish na tubla tintilo escape disla kaina all pushing mipla ya close to all over 10 mipla to one time.
The spread of unfounded speculation on social media in PNG is caused by the lack of legislation to empower citizens to access accurate information from state institutions. TI-PNG is calling on the government to address the underlying issue, that is the lack of access to information law, which has led to unreliable information on social media, referred to by the Prime Minister as fake news in media reports. TI-PNG urges that they should not be victims of the last thinking which demonizes civic spaces provided by modern technology, and that leaders must avoid the trap of proposing short-term solutions that deprive citizens their rights to free speech and expression, but rather be visionary and consider the long-term goal of empowering citizens by passing legislation for all state entities to provide information upon request by the public. Visions expressed by the Founding Fathers in Section 51 of the National Constitution, which gives a general right to information and calls for a law to be made. This still has not been done in the last 43 years of Papua New Guinea's independence. She is the youngest applicant out of the 45 participants taking part in the PNG Fashion and Design Week Limited week-long training in Port Moresby. Attending Elamari International School, 8-year-old Darcy Bowman was given consent by her parents to pursue her passion for fashion through the workshop, hosted and supported by the PNG Australia Partnership. Darcy is passionate about designing clothes for little babies in many different PNG colors and designs, as she has noticed that most shops only sell baby clothes in either pink or blue. She is hoping to make it to the international runway later on in life.
We're going to make some clothes for babies like 2 months old, 3 months old, over to adults, 80, 90, and their 90s. We're going to do printing. It's going to be all traditional, so if we were starting here in the capital city, we'll make t-shirts with the capital city, the traditional boat, the APEC house, the one at Ella Beach, that's the boat we're going to use. I've learned a lot actually. In the last 4 days I've learned how to do printing, how to cut out your print, how to create images. Now I'm learning blocks, I'm learning how far the skirt will travel, yeah. So it's going to go really good and I'm hoping to get a business out of this.
This week, PNGA will be providing tickets to Book Blong Pikinini staff to travel to their library learning centres around the country for in-library monitoring and training. Over the past 3 years, PNGA has assisted the organisation with travel for all teacher librarians to travel to Port Moresby for annual training, as well as transportation of BBP's school library re-establishment kits to schools in all provinces. More than 30,000 books have been flown to schools in other outer centres. The kits contain 1,000 books, teachers' reference materials, readers, picture books, atlases, dictionaries, and much more. Here with National EMTV News, in this week's A Closer Look, we look at the legal intricacies and how all this might play out when Parliament resumes. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. In a move that has been strongly criticised, Papua New Guinea's Attorney General applied for a stay order to stop the looming vote of no confidence motion in Parliament. The government says this is because they want to uphold the rule of law and the doctrine of the separation of powers. On the political front, the interpretation of the move are many from the opposition. It's a ploy to delay the vote. From the government, they're simply upholding the rule of law. Tonight, we take a closer look at the legal intricacies and look at how all this might play out on the 28th when Parliament resumes. Scott Wide with this Sunday's A Closer Look.
Motion of no confidence lodged by
Alfred Manasseh instructed lawyers to go to court to prevent Parliament from proceeding with the vote of no confidence against Prime Minister Peter O'Neill. This was on grounds that the government needed clarity over whether the Supreme Court had the jurisdiction to instruct Parliament to sit and when to sit. And this is what Alfred Manasseh said on Thursday at a news conference.
I'm looking at it from this point. Why is the court going that far? And then I look at the reference question. It's trying to answer those issues so that you get 3 or 4 men or 5 men bands, sit down, definitively determine these questions. So that once they determine, it binds everybody so we know the parameters. The courts will know their parameters, the Parliament will know its parameters, and the executive government will know its parameters and how the interactions will play. So that is why it's very critical that these questions are answered before the vote of no confidence is taken. So the reference, my application to stay is say, look, okay, yes, you file a vote of no confidence. Okay, let's stop it there. Let's not deal with it now. Let's deal with this. Let the court set the parameters. As soon as the parameters are set, then we deal with the motion of no confidence. That's what I'm saying.
Putting all of the above into context, this is what it means. Papua New Guinea adopted a Westminster system of government when colonial powers left. In the Westminster system, there are 3 arms of government: the executive, the Prime Minister and his cabinet, the legislative or lawmaking arm of government, the Parliament, and the judiciary, the courts. In order for government to function smoothly, in theory at least, the arms of government cannot interfere with one another. The executive arm cannot tell Parliament what to do or tell the judges how to do their jobs, and the courts cannot issue orders to Parliament. But a 2016 Supreme Court reference sought by then opposition leader Don Pollier did just that. In orders that were later issued, the Supreme Court, in effect, rewrote parliamentary standing orders and bound the Speaker to address a vote of no confidence within 7 days.
The Speaker is obliged by the Supreme Court judgment to obey, to make sure that the notice is tabled. He takes, as chairman of the Private Business Committee, he takes the notice of the motion of no confidence, which has already been filed, to the Private Business Committee. The Private Business Committee sees the heading a notice of a motion for a vote of no confidence, and is obliged also by the Supreme Court decision to simply take that piece of paper, that notice, per se, as a matter of national importance, and takes it on, agrees that it should be tabled on the floor of Parliament.
Towards the end of last week, when opposition MP Dr. Alan Marat said in a Facebook video that the Speaker was judicially bound to allow a vote of no confidence, he was referring to that 2016 Pollier reference.
I want to caution the Speaker and the leader of government business that their usual short briefing when the leader of government business leaves government caucus for that day's sitting. He goes into the Speaker's office and gives the Speaker a briefing. Parliament is the territory of the Speaker. The Speaker rules Parliament, not the government.
So did the Supreme Court cross boundaries of the separation of powers when it ordered Parliament to sit within 7 days in 2016? That's one of the questions that's been brought to court by the Attorney General, Alfred Manasseh.
There's some principle in the Constitution which talks about non-justiciability of parliamentary proceedings. In 2016, the court said that, made some decisions and say, look, interfered into the parliamentary standing orders. They said, look, no, when there's a motion of no confidence, you must deal with it like this. The court ended up setting the rules for parliament. Is that what happens? And then you have a constitution provision which says that anything that happens in parliament is non-justiciable. So what do we do with this constitutional provision if the courts are going to say, tell us how to run parliament? And then you have a constitution provision which says that anything that happens in parliament is non-justiciable. So what do we do with this constitutional provision if the courts are going to say, tell us how to run parliament? Now, looking at it from a different angle. All right, a judge is sitting on a case, wants to make some decisions. The parliament passes a law saying, look, no, in this case you must decide this way. What happens? What happens to the separation of power, the principles of separation of power, integrity of each of these three arms of government? How do we maintain the relationship?
On the political front, the decision to seek a stay order is being interpreted differently depending on which side of the proverbial political fence you're on. For the government of Peter O'Neill, the application for a stay on the vote of no confidence is meant to, quote, re-establish the rule of law and the separation of powers. The government is also seeking legal clarity on whether MPs have the right to realign themselves with other parties prior to a vote of no confidence.
In 2016, the court ruling directed Parliament to sit on a specific day, take on a specific motion, nominating a specific person. Those instructions, directions by a court order to Parliament, we feel that is in contradiction to the separation of powers.
For the opposition side, the stay order is nothing more than a ploy by government to delay the vote of no confidence. They have already cited the removal of opposition MPs from the private members committee responsible for the decision on the vote, as well as the 2-week adjournment of Parliament as part of a ploy to delay the vote. The legal situation in its present form compels the Speaker, or judicially binds him, as Dr. Alan Marat said, to allow a vote of no confidence within 7 days from the 28th.
Your failing leadership.
If the application for the stay order is successful, there will be a delay of the vote of no confidence.
You're with National EMTV News. We go for another break. When we come back, some sporting updates in Trukai Sports. Don't go away.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. We begin with Port Moresby Rugby League, and the Hanobada Hawks launched their green and white jerseys earlier this week in the presence of its club president, sponsors and supporters. President Boge Dikana says the Hanobada Hawks has a rich history, having been around since 1940s.
As part of its social obligation, MPV Sport has come on board for the 2019 season as the major sponsor supporting the team with 25,000 kina. The sponsorship covers jerseys, training gears, as well as polo shirts for the supporters.
This is a proud moment for the MPV Hanobada Hawks community.
With the inclusion of MPV Sports and Prinsol, MPV Hawks now have a few sponsors on board, including minor sponsors Ella Motors, Southern Cross Assurance and Motu Koita Assembly. Dikana says plans to extend the sponsorship would be good for the team, but for now, it only covers the 2019 season.
We are passionate about sports, and as part of our way in giving back to the community, we have decided not just to sponsor any club, but one with our pride history and one filled with passion.
The sponsors of this sort is one of the first of its kind for our company, and we are really proud and honored to do so. On behalf of our CEO and the management staff and families of Princeton Limited, we would like to wish the Hanobada Hawks Rugby League Club all the best in the 2019 season.
Since the 1940s and over the years, the team has been able to produce many greats in rugby league, from Kumuls to Hunters to even Orchids. Some of the former Orchid players currently in the team are Ray Rambi, Mata Malawia and Lila Malabag, while playing for the Hunters in the Queensland Intrust Super Cup competition is Patrick Moria, and playing in the National Rugby League competition for the Central Dabaris are Chris Vary and Karo Kauna. In the Lace Necks Tigers is Mark Pitti.
We all know that playing sports in Papua New Guinea is just for the love of the game. Okay, you'll be lucky enough to get paid in the Digital Cup. I think after Digital Cup, we any level down, we're just playing for the love of the game. But Hanobada Hawks, we've been here since the 1940s.
While the team has had its fair share of premierships over the past years, such as the 3-in-a-row win since 1975, President Dikana says the team is determined to go all the way in this year's competition with their eyes set on the finals. In the 2017 Premiership, the team finished second best against the Royals. Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
Intercity Rugby League Competition CEO Stanley Hondina says player pathways to national and international rugby league competitions is something the PNG NRL and other competitions are looking to provide opportunities for players who cannot get straight into these big rugby league competitions. He also pointed out that female participation is important in recognizing gender equality, especially in PNG.
With so much great talents identified to play in the National Rugby League competitions, and the SPPNG Hunters, CEO of Intercity Rugby League Competitions, Stanley Hondina, says player pathways is very important for players who wish to play in national and international competitions. He says there are players who have come directly from Confederate Championships to play at international events.
The player pathway, there's a clear existing of player pathway. We have leagues that are playing in the domestic competitions in their local provinces, districts if you like, further. And from there, if they play well, then they get selected into their confed sides. Trying to get it opened up and feeding the people is one side of it, but the quality and the standards of it, the capacity, the infrastructure, all these other factors put into play, it's a hard road to walk. So we are mindful of that, but we are doing what we can do slowly to get to where we want to get.
Hondina says another good program in the country is Schools Rugby League program that have proven to be successful in identifying players with potential to playing in national and international matches.
But the rugby league is about smartness and high IQ and people who are smart. So that's a tough that we've been identifying, and with the help of Arnold and Coca-Cola, we're trying to see how we can really get to the school and teach those basic skills at the school level where kids are smart and they can pick it up quick and they grow up with it.
Hondina says while there are still talks of having women play in national competitions, gender equality in sports is something Papua New Guineans need to adapt to. He says women, just like men, are also great rugby league players, but one thing that needs to be broken is the cultural barrier.
20 provinces, 800 plus languages and cultures. Unlike Australia and England and New Zealand and other places, we have those strong cultural ties, beliefs, and that's playing a role in what we do at the women's. It's a gender equality. We want to give the ladies the opportunity to do so, but then it's just tough for us in Papua New Guinea to really push the girls quick. But slowly we would someday wish to get there. But having said that, we started off well. There's a couple of leagues. It's mandatory now for leagues to have women's competition to play. The pathway there exists to come through. We are thinking of at the digital cup level to see what we can do to help. But like I said, then it involves some other factors like sponsors, support from the franchise team level, from the competition level. So it's something that we're still working on.
Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
Stay tuned, we'll have more of Trukai Sports after these messages.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. The New Zealand Warriors have recorded back-to-back wins for the first time this season, handing the Penrith Panthers their 6th straight defeat and effectively ending their season. But coach Stephen Kearney is keeping the 30-10 victory in perspective.
The changing rooms said it all. The Warriors celebrating the end of a 7-year hoodoo at Penrith Stadium, the Panthers a team in complete disarray. Captain James Tamel struggling for words and suggesting their problem runs deep.
A lot of things going on. We just need to stick together.
We're in a very similar position, 2 weeks ago, and I'm not saying we're out of that position either.
But they're certainly gaining momentum.
And now Nicarima, step! What skill from Cody Nicarima!
A settled halves combination and back three helping put 30 points on Penrith, and history would tell you out of playoff contention.
Nicarima it was who made the break. They haven't had a running half like this bloke since Stacey Jones.
He's super confident, no doubt about that. He come in thinking he's the golden Stacey Jones, the golden boot winner, so he's fit in, really well.
Nicarima's arrival 2 weeks ago coinciding with 2 straight victories, though Kearney was quick to put their win over a struggling Panthers side into perspective.
I thought we could have been better. If you're asking, was it our best performance? I don't think so. I think we can be better.
Guess who's next week?
Yeah, I know.
Nicarima ready to take on his former club, the Broncos, on his new home turf next weekend.
To Super Rugby and Hurricanes captain TJ Perenara believes a hard look in the mirror won't be enough for his players after being upset 28-20s by the Jaguars. They committed mistake after mistake and once again struggled without the rested Bowden Barrett.
It was sloppy.
As we see another mistouch.
Everything from penalty kicks and catching
Karifi's missed it altogether.
to line-out drive defence were below the standards the Hurricanes hold themselves to.
If we just sugarcoat it and glaze over it and say, that's just a wake-up call, I think we don't take as much of it that we could. We're a better football team than what we put out there.
After the Canes scored in the first minute,
He dropped through, and the chase coming for Fita. Wow.
a desperate Geordie Barrett forgot the rules and batted a ball dead in goal.
Oh dear.
The Huares got a penalty try, Barrett was yellow carded, and the Hurricanes started to crumble.
That's a penalty try, and with the penalty try comes yellow card, so I was sweet with it. To be fair, I probably should have made a play on the ball there. I tried sliding on the ball, I mishandled it, put Geordie under the pump.
The Canes were dominated at the breakdown for much of the game and blew 4 of their own line-out throws.
Oh, he's thrown it away to Cavalli.
The Huares were happy to pounce on the ball. They turned that possession and territory into points.
A few line-outs that were disappointing, probably not quite clinical enough around our clean-out work and breakdown, and gave our backs too much slow ball.
The 28-21 win has the Huares top of the South African Conference midway through round 14 and delighted, as well as realistic about it.
Maybe we will not be first tomorrow, but we're going to enjoy the night and do like we don't know that the South Africans are playing.
The Canes still have the second most points on the Super Rugby table, but head into their bye pretty grumpy.
A bit disappointing, really. We feel we're a fair bit better than that.
To golf, and Kiwi Danny Lee could not keep pace in the second round of the PGA Championship in New York, cutting a 4-over par and sliding down the leaderboard. But he'll head into the weekend 10 shots behind Brooks Koepka, whose lead after 36 holes is the largest at a major in almost 100 years.
Brooks Koepka described yesterday's 63 as one of the best rounds he's ever played.
There he is.
He was a little less complimentary of today's 65.
To minus 12.
This probably sounds bad, but today was a battle. I didn't strike it that good.
Not bad for someone who's just set the lowest combined score after 2 rounds in major history.
Not having your A game, but still being able to shoot a great score. I was very, very pleased with the way I played today.
The defending champ made a mockery of the sign warning this is an extremely difficult golf course. The world number 3 dialed in from the start.
Right below the hole.
He birdied 3 of his opening 4 holes and 3 of his final 4 as well.
Very impressive.
2 bogeys were the only thing not impressive, and maybe missing a few shots to the right as well. But his strength to get out of the long grass more than made up for that.
This is great. Well played there from an awkward lie.
That's why I go to the gym.
The 3-time major winner is 7 shots ahead of Jordan Spieth and Adam Scott in second, with Danny Lee tied for 10th.
Every single hole on the back nine was freaking hard.
Lee wasn't alone. Only 25 players are under par. Fellow Kiwi Ryan Fox and Tiger Woods weren't. They both missed the cut. The Masters champion, the last to wish Koepka well for the weekend as he attempts to win his 4th major title.
And that ends Trukai Sports for this evening. Stay tuned for the weather update for the next 24 hours. That's up next.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by Money Plus. With you always.
A look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours in the southern region. Fine in Port Moresby and Kerama. Showers, then fine for Alatau. Cloudy periods in Daru. Rain and showers expected in Popondetta. To the Momasa region, rain and showers expected in Leh and Wau, a shower or 2 in Medang and Wewak, and a shower or 2 as well in Vanimo. To the New Guinea Islands region, a few showers expected in Lorengau, fine weather in Kavieng, showers in Kokopo and Rabaul, rain and showers expected in Kimbe, a few showers in Buka. And in the Highlands region, the major centres, Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg can all expect rain and showers over the next 24 hours with morning fog developing. A look at the forecast for small ships, but first there is a renewal of a strong wind warning for all coastal waters. Strong southeasterly winds of 25 to 34 knots are expected to continue for the next 24 hours, causing rough seas and high sea swells. All small craft and boats are advised to take the necessary precautions before and after going out to sea. A look at the forecast for small ships for the next 24 hours. Waters of southern PNG Indonesia border through Torres Strait and Daru to Kiwai Island, to Kerma, Yule Island, Hood Point, Aroma Coast, to Samurai Island, and waters of eastern and western Milne Bay Islands, and waters of Samurai Island to Cape Vogel, Finchafen, and waters of Finchafen through Vitias and Dampier Strait to Siasi Island to Long Island, seas 2.5 to 3 meters. Waters of Long Island to Medang, Bogia, Wewak, Aitape, Vanimo, and the northern PNG Indonesian border, and waters of Manus and its western group of islands, and waters of New Britain to New Ireland to New Bougainville, sea 0.5 to 1.3 meters. And I look at the ocean forecast for PNG areas. Coral Sea, seas rough with southeasterly winds at 25 to 34 knots. Solomon Sea, seas slight to moderate with southeasterly winds at 10 to 20 knots. Bismarck Sea, seas slight with patches rather rough with southeasterly winds at 10 to 20 knots. And the Pacific Ocean, seas slight with northwest to northeasterly winds at 10 to 15 knots.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by Money Plus. With you always.
And that has been the news, sport and weather for today, Sunday the 19th of May 2019. On behalf of the entire MTV News team right around the country, have a safe working week. Good night.